Eli, okay? High priest of the temple, all right? I think it was a city, we're going to find out. It was a couple feet away from where Jerusalem was. That's where Eli was the high priest of. He was a Levite, okay? And his two kids also served in the tabernacle, all right? And we're going to see this relationship he had with his sons, amen? So 1 Samuel 1 says, there was a man from Ramathaim Zopim in the hill country of Ephraim. His name was Elkanah, son of an Ephraimite. He had two wives, the first named Hannah and the second Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah was childless. This man would go up from his town every year to worship and sacrifice to the Lord of hosts at Shiloh, where Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were the Lord's priests. Okay? So what we see here is they were in the land of Shiloh. Eli was the high priest there, and his two sons were also serving as priests as well. Okay? They were one family unit. It was a family ministry. Okay? They all served in the tabernacle. They had a familial ministry. Okay? This is every pastor's dream right here. Okay? To have all their kids, everybody serving the Lord. That's even parents sometimes, that is their dream. All my kids serve the Lord. Everybody's serving the Lord. Okay? This is what's happening. This is his situation. We all serve in the tabernacle. We're all familial. We are all priests. This is great. Okay? Now, we're going to go to 1 Samuel 2. Okay? Now, if you guys don't know, the ones that were working the tabernacle and served as the high priest, they would accept the people's sacrifices that they would bring, the animals, the fat, and all those things. They would bring all those things as their offering to the Lord, and the priests were the middleman that would say, okay, I'm going to take that, let me go burn it, and then the rest would go to them. Okay, there's a portion that would go to them, there's a portion that would go to the people that brought the offering, and then the Lord would get his portion, okay, that they had to put on the altar, or I don't want to say the grill, sorry. But for lack of better words, that's what they would put it on, okay? So it could go up as smoke to the Lord, a pleasing aroma, okay? Pretty serious job, would you say? I mean, you are literally working on behalf of the Lord, because these people didn't have jobs or anything. This is what they did. And so what would happen is they would bring their offerings, and this is how they would live. Off the people, bring it in, this is how people live. And this is where, for those who know, this is where the tithe thing came from, where they would bring the tenth and all those things, and this is what the Levites would live off of, because they weren't allowed to have land, they weren't allowed to have businesses, they weren't allowed to do any of those things. This is just what they did, okay? Now, 1 Samuel 2, we're going to start at 12. It says, Eli's sons were wicked men. They had no regard for the Lord or for priests' share of the sacrifices from the people. This makes no sense. You guys are all high priests. I'm sure you were taught. I'm sure your father taught you. I'm sure. Why are you acting like this? This makes no sense, because you guys are in the highest position a believer can be in. And this is how you're acting. They're doing the rituals. They're doing everything they're supposed to do. But what? They don't know God. Even being in a Christian household, they still didn't know God. They did the rituals. They probably, as kids, helping their dad do everything. And as they got older, there was a very big disconnect. A very big disconnect between their hearts and God's heart. They had no interest in that. What they did was they wanted to just abuse their position and do whatever it is they wanted to do and take advantage of the authority that they had and just use it for whatever they wanted to do. For whatever it is they wanted to do, but it says they were wicked. They had no regard for the Lord or the priest's share of the sacrifices from the people. To them, it was never enough. The people would bring in the sacrifices and then their portion. They're like, I don't want this portion. I want more. They got greedy. And when you look at it, even in today, to this day, you still have people in the church and in the body of Christ who they're doing the ritual. Oh, they're in ministry. Oh, they're preaching, they're singing, they're taking pictures, they're doing everything. Not Teresa, though. Teresa's good. Not Teresa. We're doing all these things, but the hearts are far away from God. And not only that, they will use their position to abuse the people. There are ministers that will use their own position to then abuse the people that they're serving. Because some people have it twisted. They think when you're a pastor or a leader or anything like that, that people are following you or things like that. No, that's not what it is. I'm trying to get you to follow Christ. So I'm trying to get you to follow Christ. And so what they do is they will manipulate and try to bend you to do their will. Not God's will, but their will. Not what is best for the congregation, but what's best for me. What is best for me? And they'll lie and they'll cheat and they steal without you even knowing, but face to face up here, it's a very good show. It's a very good show. But deep down in here, their hearts are far away from God. As you can see, they're in the house of the Lord. Nothing has changed. There are still people functioning like this to this day. There are still people that, oh, we got to practice on Tuesday. Okay, do. Not that Godson does that. Oh, we got to play today. Okay, like, no. People forget that this is a privilege. This is a privilege that we're able to do this. It is a privilege to be able to serve the Lord. But we take it for granted. We actually get to do this. We get to do this. We get to come in one with the Lord to expand his kingdom. The fact that I've been given a chance and opportunity to even worship God, to even get to have a relationship with God, to get to know this God. When you really sit here and think about it, where he has given us an opportunity to know him and the way he functions and the way he works. It is, when you really sit there and just really take it all in, it's like, man, like, wow, God, I'm sorry if I've made it about my own gain, what I can get from you, instead of just, Lord, I'm worshiping you and I'm doing this walk just because of who you are, and that's it. I'm not looking for any ulterior motives. It's just simply because of who you are. And there's so much more work to do, because there are so many people out there that still don't know who God is. They have no clue. And that's why you were made, so they can see it. You might not be able to speak sometimes, but they'll see it. And eventually something's got to change. Eventually something will happen. Eventually, but that's the whole point of this. Now, it continues to say, the priest servant, it says this, when any man offered a sacrifice, the priest's servant would come with a 3-pronged meat fork while the meat was boiling. Check this out. Let me paint this picture for you. So they would come, give the meat to the priest so they can offer it up to the Lord, right? Then they would take their portion back, go back to their home, and cook their portion, okay? So what the priest would do is, since they know who gave the sacrifice, so they'd go to their houses, hey, what you got? With their meat fork, where's the filet mignon? Where is it? Oh, here it is, got it. What are you doing, dude? Hey, this is mine. This is my portion. And you couldn't come against the priest. You coming against the priest is coming against God. So what are you supposed to do? What were they supposed to do? Okay, I guess you can take it. But think about even them, because what they're doing now is disturbing their worship. The priests are now getting in the way of people's worship to God. This is very serious. This is pretty bad. You are now getting in the way of God. There's already a divide here, and now you're just creating even more of a divide. Now, they would plunge it to the container or the kettle or the cauldron or cooking pot. The priest would claim for himself whatever the meat fork brought up. This is the way they treated all the Israelites who came there to Shiloh. Even before the fat was burned, the priest's servant would come and say to the man who was sacrificing, give the priest some meat to roast, because he won't accept boiled meat from you, only raw. When they would come, the fat had to be separated from the meat first, and it had to be put to the altar to create that aroma for the Lord. That was the whole point why he wanted the fat. Now I'm reading this, I'm like, God, why would you want the fat from the meat? As a matter of fact, when I eat my meat, I want the fat like out of it. I want it out of there. Not a fan of it, right? But there are people that say the fat is the best part. And even in this time period, the fat was the best part. God wanted the best from the people. And what God was doing here, he was just painting that picture of how he wants the best from us. The best. So to them, it was very desirable to keep the fat on the meat because they like that too. They're like, oh, it gives it more flavor, this and that. We want to keep that. But God said, no, bring the fat. And the fat created smoke. Created the most smoke, and that's what caused that pleasing aroma to the Lord. So now what's happening is when you bring your best to the Lord, it has an aroma to it. There is an aroma to it that actually goes up to the Lord. We're just talking about moving his heart. That's what will move him. That's what makes him come down because, oh, you're worshiping in spirit and in truth. You're not trying to hold back from me. You're not trying to hold back from him, but you're giving him the best of what you have. So now you remember, Lord, I'm giving you the fat today. Take it. It could be physically and it could be spiritually. Lord, take the fat. Take it away from me. Take it up. But it caused a pleasing aroma to the Lord. Understand that your worship has an aroma. It has a smell to it. And it's either going to smell bad or it's going to smell good, depending on what you're bringing to him. But sometimes we want to wallow in the world out there, and then we want to bring it in and say, okay, Lord, I'm here to worship. It takes a little time to get off whatever it is you were doing to then, okay, let's get to the, oh, there it is. Because of everything you might have been doing out there sinfully and then coming in here and thinking, oh, yeah, I could be in two worlds at the same time, right? Same with the priest. Oh, look what I'm doing to the people, but I go in the tabernacle. Oh, I could enter into the holies of holies. I'm good. But no change is happening. These people were literally in the presence, worked in the presence of God, and they didn't change. Just because you're here doesn't mean you'll change. Just because you say, I went to church, that doesn't mean anything. Just because you're in the room or you're in the space, that does not mean that you are going to change. That doesn't automatically mean that, okay, I'm good to go, I did my church thing, no. You just heard a good talk and you left. There needs to be an inclination, Lord, change me. Lord, change my heart. You know what's funny is God's presence can be in the room tangibly, because it's always in the room. It's everywhere. But when you could actually feel it intangible, the presence could be there. But there are still people who are standing outside of it. Because you'll hear people, oh, I feel the presence of God in here. Someone's like, I don't feel it. Well, get in it. Get in it. Figure it out. But also, don't depend so much on the feelings, because that comes and goes. Me and my wife were talking about that, how there's people that are like, people raising their hands and stuff, but I don't really feel the Lord, and this and that. Don't focus so much on the feeling. Focus on the word. You know, when Samuel was called, it actually says that the presence of God came to Samuel through his word. God spoke to Samuel through his word. And who's the word of the Lord? Jesus himself. The word is that powerful. That's how he didn't reach him through instruments. He didn't reach him through any of those things. He reached him through just my word. And that was all. But these people literally worked in the presence of God, but they stayed the same. And they were wicked. And Eli is responsible for this, because he ignored this behavior. Think about how long this has been going on. Because Eli died at 98 years old. So his kids were probably 40, 50. Years and years and years of this behavior, and he did nothing about it. We're going to read more into it. And it says, 16, If that man said to him, the fat must be burned first, then you can take whatever you want for yourself, the servant would reply, no, I insist that you hand it over right now. If you don't, I'll take it by force. So the servant's sin was very severe in the presence of the Lord because they treated the Lord's offering with contempt. What does it mean when something is in contempt? You have no disregard for it. You don't care for it. There's no respect for it. You know how you're in court and be like, well, I'll hold you in contempt of court. Anybody ever see Liar, Liar? I hold myself in contempt. Anyways, I'm not here to talk about that, but they don't make them like that anymore. But anyway, you can get arrested. Being in contempt of court, you can get arrested. And what they were doing was they were disrespecting and putting aside, they had no regard to the Lord's offering. They didn't care for it. They were taking that and putting it in contempt. And that is why when you are someone, and you know what, everyone here is a priest anyway because you guys are the priests of your own temples. That's why when the offerings come and all those things, you can't take it for granted. I was talking with, I forgot, but I was telling him, I don't like wastefully spending church money. These are people's offerings to the Lord. It's not to buy myself an F-150 or something like that. I did not buy that with church money. Okay? Yeah. No. That didn't happen, okay? But nothing's changed because you have people that steal. They steal from the people's offerings. They buy other things with the people's offerings. They cheat people out of what belongs to the Lord. It's not just, oh, what do I want to buy? What? No, this needs to be brought to the Lord. What do you want to do with this? Here's your portion. What do you want us to do with our portion? Now, I'm going to skip to verse 22. It says, now Eli was very old. He heard about everything his sons were doing to all Israel and how they were sleeping with the woman who served at the entrance to the tent of meeting. Let's just add that on to the cake. We're sleeping with women who work in the front of the tent entrance. We're over here stealing people's offerings, disregard for everything of the Lord's order. This is what they're doing, okay? And again, it's been going on. It's been going on, and my main theme for today is the importance of disciplining and correcting your children. And I don't mean discipline by hitting or anything like that. What I mean by that is correcting your children in the right way and in the right path, because if you don't, it can lead to evil ways. If it's not corrected, the same way think about if God did not correct you. Think about it. Think about if you had no conviction. Where would you be? Where would you be if God did not change you? Where would you be if God did not discipline you? You'd be on the evil path. And what you wouldn't know it's bad because I'm not getting any correction, so I think I'm good. What's wrong? Until someone brings to your attention, hey, what you're doing isn't good. What you're doing is going to lead to this path. What you're doing, this is where you're going to end up. Now, he said to them, why are you doing these things? I have heard about your evil actions from all these people. No, my sons, the report I hear from the Lord's people is not good. If a man sins against another man, God can intercede for him. But if a man sins against the Lord, who can intercede for him? In other words, they were the ones interceding pretty much for the people. But like, you're that person. There is nobody who can intercede for you. Because Jesus isn't here yet. You are it. There's nobody to fight for you at all. You know what it says? It says they would not listen to their father. They would not listen to their father. This is not out of nowhere. This is from small age to big. To say, I'm not listening to my father. I'm not listening to what you say. There was a disrespect to their own father, where even their own father tried to correct them, and he just got disrespect right back. I'm not listening to you. Again, this did not start now. This is a buildup of not correcting, of not showing them and not teaching them. This is what you end up with. That's why I'm saying it is very important to correct your children, because if you don't, this is what you're looking at down the road. It's not go let them do whatever they want willy-nilly and who cares. I have seen that. When I was working in the schools, there were some bad kids. And you call their parents and they're just like, oh, okay, you're going to suspend them? Okay, whatever. 3 days, okay. When I was in school, I'd be crying. You're going to suspend me? Yeah, we got to call your mom. Don't call my mom. And my problem was, it didn't matter who you called, I was going to get it. There was no, oh, my dad might be easier. No, it's the same. I'm not getting any mercy from either one here, man. This is the same. But this is what happens with lack of discipline. Now, it says, but they would not listen to their father, since the Lord intended to kill them. Wow, that's a lot there. How do we go from, oh, and the Lord's like, no, they're going to die. They're going to die. Why? Why did the Lord already make this decision to say, Eli, your sons are gone? They are going to die. And it's not that God hardened their heart, because it says that they didn't listen to their father since the Lord intended to kill them. It's not that the Lord said, hey, I'm not going to give you a chance to live. I'm just going to harden your heart so you can die. No. They were at a point of no return. And it even says in Proverbs, the more you continue in sin, you become so numb to the Spirit of the Lord that you can hit a point of no return. And it looks like here where the sons were in a position where they didn't care for the Lord at all. They did not know him. They did the rituals and all that stuff, but they didn't know who he was. And at this point, by the way, another reason is, once you do the fornication part through the law of Leviticus, you're stoned to death. And here's Eli's issue, okay? Him knowing this, even beforehand, by the way, this is kind of like a really weak discipline. Oh, come on, guys, they're not telling, you're doing bad things. You really need to stop, guys. This is serious. And Eli, what he's doing, what he should have done is they should have been removed from position a long time ago. That's what he should have done. He should have said, you guys are done. You're not fit for this. You're done doing this. You are done in this office of priest. You are done. And you know what? Had Eli done that, he might have saved their lives. But for some reason, he was so scared to offend his children and take them out of position. And sometimes as a parent, future-wise, even now, you might have to do that. Hey, I got to take you out of this. I'm sorry. Oh, but why are you? I feel this inclination. I need to remove you from this. You might be upset with me now, but you will live. Because what happens is, because of Eli's action, it caused spiritual death to his children. And this is the priest. This is the high priest we're talking about. And for his inaction, for his lack of correction on his children, it led to their death. You have to also understand as a parent, when you don't correct and you don't discipline, that's what you're setting them up for. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen or anything like that, but when you don't, you are setting them up for spiritual death. For some of you in here, I don't know what you were taught. I don't know what your parents taught you. I don't know what your parents showed you. I don't know. They might have set you up for failure. They might have set you up for spiritual failure. And there's people in that room that have had that. They were set up for spiritual failure. They were set up for spiritual death. But then God came. God came and changed that all around. But why would I want to set up my children for that? Because even if they don't listen, even if they end up wayward, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. I did my part. It's when you don't do your part that there's a problem. Because there are very righteous parents out there, and the kids are out of control. What do you want me to do? Because some people think, oh, they're the pastor's kids, man. They're the craziest. Sometimes I feel like mine are the worst behaved sometimes. I'm like, what is happening right now? It's not for lack of discipline. It's not for lack of correction or anything. But I'm not just going to let it slide. Because I cannot set them up for spiritual failure. I can't set them up for spiritual death. Now check this out. It says, a man of God came to Eli and said to him. We don't know who this man is. We don't know who this person is. I would even say they're prophet. We don't know who this prophet is. But he had a word for the high priest. You know what's interesting about this is, why didn't God speak directly to Eli? The high priest had direct connection to God, but he sent someone else to go speak to Eli. He did not speak directly to him. Because, by the way, if you didn't know, Eli was blind. He couldn't see. And this wasn't just a physical ailment he had. This was spiritually, he couldn't see either. Because he let offenses to the Lord through his children just slide. He didn't take care of it. He was blind to that. He didn't want to see it. So the Lord said, let me send a man to you, because even if I speak to you, because you just found out what happened and you still have not removed them from position. I'm not speaking to you. I will send someone else to speak to you. Because right now he was about to cut off Eli and his sons. Because it says that those who ate the fat of the animal, you will be cut off from the community. So he said, Eli, you are going to be cut off from the temple, you and your children. You guys will be done. I'm not speaking to you. So he sent someone else to go speak to him. And it says, this is what the Lord says. Didn't I reveal myself to your ancestral house when it was in Egypt and belonged to Pharaoh's palace? Out of all the tribes of Israel, I selected your house to be priest, to offer sacrifices on my altar, to burn incense and wear an ephod in my presence. I also gave your house all the Israelite fire offerings. Why then do all of you despise my sacrifices and offerings? What's interesting about this is Eli didn't do this, but it says specifically, all of you. Because Eli, you saw it and you did nothing about it. You're involved. You're just as guilty as the other two. Well, that's not fair. These are the high priests. That standard is here. They knew. They know. They knew all the rules. They knew all those things, and literally said, I'm not doing that. I'm going to do my own thing. And Eli, being the head of his household, didn't do anything to correct his children. So God said, Eli, you're involved. You are just as guilty as they are for what they did. Now, offerings that I require at the place of worship. You have honored your sons more than me by making yourselves fat with the best part of all the offerings. You were the high priest. And it says you honored your sons more than me by making yourselves, again, you're included, making yourselves fat with the best part of all the offerings of my people, Israel. But Eli was a minister. He was the high priest in this temple. He put God first. He put ministry first, right? But he told them, by you putting ministry first, not even God first, the tabernacle first, you dishonored me because you neglected your children. For those of you who have children now and those who will have children in the future, it changes things. Now you have to find out, how do I still do my ministerial duties and not neglect the duties of my children of raising them? Because let me tell you what I've seen a lot of. There's a lot of other kids I've seen where every day was church, you were in church all the time. All the time. Where they were so focused on ministry and all those things that their kids were neglected. And when they get older, they rebel. I don't want to do this anymore. My parents never sat down to talk to me about this, talk to me about that. They never sat down and told me why. Why do we worship? Why do we do this? Why do we do these things? They never said. And so now there's no understanding. Spent their whole life in church and they don't understand God. Spent their whole life in ministry, don't know who God is. I did the ritual though. I did all the stuff you're supposed to do, but they didn't know God. I've seen so many stories about this. People who've actually just left the faith because they didn't understand God. They understood emotion. They understood feeling, but they didn't understand God. Because once that moment was over, there was no follow-up. They just left with, man, that was a really cool experience. Where's the follow-up on the Word of God on this? That's one thing when people say they receive prophecies or this, that, whatever it is that people say, you have to bring it back to the Word. And if they don't line up, you're a liar. You're either speaking out of emotion or you're a false prophet. You're one of those things. But we have to be careful with that, because there are wolves in sheep's clothing trying to split up and divide the church, to split up the people, to lead the people into other beliefs, to lead them to believe other things. I mean, it's happening now. There's ministry out there, there are ministries out there teaching some really weird stuff. And I'm always like, where's that in the Bible? Oh, well, it's not in there. You can't find it. Whatever weird thing you're teaching, show me where is it in here. And if you can't, no, I'm not listening to you. I'm not. He put his sons, in his mind probably, he thought, oh, I'm putting the Lord first, ministry first. But he was really putting his children first. In the sense of not wanting to offend them, not wanting to correct them. He had like a soft spot for them. And it ended up doing damage to them. Then he ended up leading his children to spiritual death because he didn't want to offend them. He didn't want to offend his kids. And he just let them slide. They had different treatment than the rest of the body. Because everyone else, hey, this is the law of Leviticus, we gotta do this, but when it comes to my sons, no. They get a pass. They get a pass. I mean, we see it today. We see it today even with people who have money. Hey, just let this slide. Come on. Your kid brought cocaine to school. Yeah, but I donated $10,000. All right, we'll let it slide, but the other kid? No. You're going to jail. That's how it is. That's the world we live in. Now, I'm not here to talk about politics or anything like that. But somebody with money gets arrested and stuff, they end up on house arrest. Someone without money, they end up, you got to serve and do time in there. We've seen it. It's nothing that we haven't seen. Now, this is what else he says. He says, making yourselves fat with the best part of the offering. They were making themselves fat with what belonged to the Lord. He was like, man, I didn't know Eli was so bad. This wasn't Eli. He wasn't bad. He just had this issue. He had this problem of not wanting to do what he had to do, even being his children, removing them from their position. And again, it probably would have saved their lives. And so now you could probably see how they're all huge and they're all big because they're eating good. They're eating real good, and so they're accumulating all this fat. And it's not so much physical, spiritual fat. Where they were getting so big, they were taking it all in, and since they weren't moving in the Lord, they weren't ministering to the Lord, it just accumulates. They're not releasing anything. And it's hard to move. It's hard to move when you're accumulating so much and you're not releasing. It's difficult. Spiritually, it's difficult when you're accumulating so much from the Lord and you're not releasing. And that goes with everything. That goes with your gifts. That goes with your talent. That goes with the finances. That goes with everything. Lord, I'm accumulating so much, but you're not releasing. And it's hard to walk because you get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's hard to move that way because you're not releasing. Because a lot of people in the body, man, it's just gimme, 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 gimme. Now, what can I do? What can I do? Gimme, 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 just gimme. And a lot of people, a lot of ministers want it that way. I don't want your input. Just come in, take it, and leave. Take in the show, take in the this, and go. You already know it ain't like that here. I'm into your spiritual growth and your discipleship. I'm concerned about that. I want that. That's what the whole thing is for. That's what this is about. Now, therefore, this is the declaration of the Lord, the God of Israel. Although I said your family and your ancestral house would walk before me forever, the Lord now says, no longer. I will honor those who honor me, but those who despise me will be disgraced. This does not mean that God changed his mind. He just said, your family ain't going to be part of it. I'm still going to honor the ancestral house of the Levites and all those things. But you guys, this needs to go. And it says, look, the days are coming when I will cut off your strength and the strength of your ancestral family, so that none in your family will reach old age. You will see distress in the place of worship, in spite of all that is good in Israel, and no one in your family will ever again reach old age. Any man from your family I do not cut off from my altar will bring grief and sadness to you. All your descendants will die violently. This will be the sign that will come to you concerning your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas. Both of them will die on the same day. And then in this moment is when he says, you guys, you will be replaced by Samuel. What's funny is Samuel grew up under Eli. Because Hannah had Samuel and said, Lord, if you give me a son, I will dedicate him to you. I will dedicate him to your presence. I will do that. And she did. And Samuel was growing in the Lord. That's what it says. Samuel was growing in the Lord. He was doing great. And this is under Eli. But your sons are a whole different story. So how is it that you could do good with Samuel, but you can't do good with your own? Both were part of ministry. All of them, Samuel, they were all part of that. But for some reason, Samuel came out as chosen by God. But the other two were the total opposite on how they were treating the Lord's temple. Now, here's one thing. This is a time period where it was very rare. It was very rare to receive prophecy from the Lord. God was pretty silent during these times. And that's why when God called Samuel, he called him 3 times, and Samuel's like, you go to Eli, did you call me? Did you call me? Did you call me? Eli then understood, hold on. It's not me. This is God calling you. And he said, next time he calls you, say, hey, servant, here I am, and all those things. And he told Samuel right there, you will be my next one. It will be you. And the whole time, God already knew that they were going to be replaced because of what his sons were doing and what he was doing. Let me tell you something. If you don't rise up, if you don't answer to what God is asking you to do, don't think that you cannot be replaced. Now, it will never get done the way it was supposed to be done because you bring this uniqueness of who you are to the calling. But if God is wanting to do something in the ministry that you are just not doing, don't be afraid when he raises up somebody else to replace you because your heart is far away from God. One thing I always say is ministry, the sustainer of ministry is God. You guys are great. I genuinely love all of you. But you guys are not the sustainer of the ministry. God is. And he will have his way in the ministry, and he will do what he needs to do. And if you're someone who's like, I don't want to do it, I don't want to rise up to it, I'm lazy, whatever, don't be afraid when he brings somebody in. Don't get upset when he brings somebody in to do what you were supposed to be doing. But then it might light a fire in you. I don't know. Might be good. But don't get upset. Eli, his sons, they had their opportunity, but God said, no. You've put a disregard to the offerings of the people. That's another thing. Them in their position. Have you ever heard that term when somebody gets fleeced? Like, yo, they just fleeced them. Like in the NBA, when you make a trade, and it's like, oh, we got all these good guys, and we just gave them like, some second-round picks that are, man, they just got fleeced. What that means is everybody wants the wool from the sheep when they want to fleece them, but they don't want to take care of them. They just want what the sheep have to offer. But I don't actually want to take care of the sheep. The priests were in position, oh, I want what they got. I don't want to take care of them, though. I want what they have, but I don't want to do what I'm actually supposed to do with it. And there's people out there, too, where I want what you have. I want to fleece you. I want to take it off of you. I don't want to take care of you, though. From a pastoral perspective, I see the callings. I see everything offered. I want that. But as the shepherd, you're supposed to stay. You don't leave. You don't fleece and then say, all right, I'm out. You don't fleece and just take it all for yourself. It says what with the shepherd? It's the stranger that hops over the fence. It's the hired hand that will leave. The hired shepherd will leave because he has his interest is in what I've hired for, not actually the sheep themselves. I don't get paid for this. I'm not a hired hand. I care. That doesn't mean it's wrong even if I did. But I'm like Paul. I can, but I'm not going to. I don't want to. The Lord is my sustainer. That's how I want to live. Keeps me humble. I like it. Now, we're almost done. You following me? It says we're going to go to 4. 4, 5. Actually, we'll start at 3. So right now, they're going into war with the Philistines, and it says, when the troops returned to the camp, the elders of Israel asked, why did the Lord let us be defeated today by the Philistines? Let's bring the ark of the Lord's covenant from Shiloh, then it will go with us and save us from the hand of our enemies. Did you ask permission to do that? Let me take the literal presence of God out of the holies of holies, and we're just going to bring it with us so we could win. They did that before, right? We can just do it again. This should work, shouldn't it? You did not pray. You did not go to the Lord. You did not ask permission to do this. When Joshua did it, that was direct instruction from the Lord. That will go before you. The Ark of the Covenant will go before you. Cross the Jordan River, it will go before you. It will go in front of you. They didn't ask permission. And we think sometimes we can just drag God wherever we want to go. And I'm going to win. Because this is what I want to do. We drag the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit, you follow me, okay? I don't follow you. You follow me wherever I want to go, and I got to win. Even though I'm going places you don't even want me to be at. Because sometimes we think we can go into this land and think, oh, I'm here to win. No, God didn't call you here. God didn't tell you to do that. God didn't give you instruction to do that. And there's a difference between it's not working out according to your plans and it's not working out because you simply were just not called to it. And it really takes a lot for you to really say, Lord, I don't think I wasn't called for it. I did it because everybody else was doing it, and everyone else is pastoring, preaching, and stuff, and it's cool. And I want to do it too, but you weren't really called for it. And it takes a lot for someone to realize, I just wasn't. I was acting on my own, not from instruction from the Lord. So the people sent men to Shiloh to bring back the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord of Hosts, who dwells between the cherubim. Eli's 2 sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the Ark of the Covenant of God. When the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord entered the camp, all the Israelites raised such a loud shout that the ground shook. The Philistines heard the sound of the war cry and asked, "What's this loud shout in the Hebrews' camp?" When the Philistines discovered that the Ark of the Lord had entered the camp, they panicked. The gods have entered their camp, they said. Woe to us, nothing like this has ever happened before. Woe to us, who will rescue us from the hand of these magnificent gods? These are the gods that slaughtered the Egyptians with all kinds of plagues in the wilderness. Show some courage, be men, Philistines. Otherwise, you'll serve the Hebrews just as they served you. Now be men and fight. So the Philistines fought, and Israel was defeated, and each man fled to his tent. The slaughter was severe. 30,000 of the Israelite foot soldiers fell. The ark of God was captured, and Eli's 2 sons, Hophni and Phinehas, died. Well, God's not a liar. He said what he was going to do. But what's funny about this is they thought if we could just bring the Ark of the Covenant, we're going to win, and it was a worse slaughter than the first time. Thinking the presence of God was just something I could shut off and turn on and use it whenever I feel like it. The presence of God is not an on and off switch. It's not something you use for your gain and you use it when you want to and then say, I don't want it anymore. There are even people to this day, man, I think it's funny when you hear some ministers be like, hey, prophesy, prophesy. It doesn't work that way. I don't just turn it on and off like that. The Lord has to put a word in me and then to release it. It's not, hey, do it. What? Y'all are laughing, but it happens. Hey, go. What? You should know that's not how this works. Every single person who prophesied here had a word directly from the Lord to release it. It wasn't just willy-nilly, I'm just going to go, I'm just going to go say stuff. Whatever comes out sounds good. Whatever. Now, I'm going to end with this. I'm going to go to 12, verse 12, 4:12. That same day, a Benjamin man ran from the battle and came to Shiloh. His clothes were torn, and there was dirt on his head. When he arrived there, Eli was sitting on his chair beside the road watching because he was anxious about the ark of God. That's another thing. You let them take it? Eli, man, you are killing me. Killing me. This dude he just let his children just run over him. They didn't listen to me. Oh, okay, whatever. Oh, they didn't do this. Oh, okay, whatever. They should have been done. But he didn't do what he was supposed to do. So his children died. Now, it says that because he was anxious about the ark of God, when the man entered the city to give a report, the entire city cried out. Eli heard the outcry and asked, why this commotion? The man quickly came and reported to Eli. At the time, Eli was 98 years old, and his gaze was fixed because he couldn't see. Again, now this is a spiritual aspect where even when Hannah, I don't know if you guys remember, when Hannah was praying in the temple, he thought she was drunk because she was moving her lips. Oh, you're drunk. She's like, I'm not drunk, dude. Like, Eli, get it together. But this was showing that there was some spiritual blindness in him that he wasn't able to even see through his children. He wasn't able to see it, and it caused him, this was a cause of the spiritual blindness, and he was even physical. Now the man said to Eli, I'm the one who came from the battle. I fled from there today. What happened, my son? Eli asked. The messenger answered, Israel has fled from the Philistines, and also there was a great slaughter among the people. Your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, are both dead, and the ark of God has been captured. That's a lot of bad news in like one statement there. A lot. Look at what happened. When he mentioned the ark of God, Eli fell backward off the chair by the city gate, and since he was old and heavy, his neck broke and he died. Eli had judged Israel 40 years. I want you to imagine how big you have to be for you to fall backward and the weight of yourself broke your neck. This is how spiritually fat Eli was. What was spiritual, and then it manifested himself in the physical, because that's how he looked spiritually. For lack of correction on his children, for not saying anything, it was as if he was doing it too, because he had an obligation and a duty to protect the tabernacle, to hold together the things that God wanted done. But he didn't do it. He just let his children, he just let them do whatever they wanted to do. So not only did he cause his own children's death, he caused his own death. He was blind, and he was fat, spiritually fat, and it showed physically so much that it killed him. It killed him. That accumulation of taking other people's offerings and things like that and taking the fat and all those things and ended up killing him. Why? Because it didn't belong to him. He was acting out of what he was supposed to do. That's what happens when sometimes we want to act in an office that we were not called to. We don't pick and choose what we're called to. Lord, I want the prophetic office. Not how that works. I want the pastoral office. Not how that works. And if you start functioning in things that don't belong to you, it can kill you. It can kill you spiritually. And number one, you're taking things in, again, that belong to God. Your body can't handle that. Literally something that said, God, this is mine. This is for me. That's a whole nother dimension. I'm sure there's people in here, you've tried to handle something that belongs to God. You've tried to handle circumstances. You've tried to handle people. You've tried to handle different things that God said, that is mine. That is my battle. That is my battle. But you keep battling on your own, and you keep losing every single time. Even when it comes to that sinful nature, man, I can just do it on my own. I'm good. Yeah, keep fighting that battle and you keep losing. Because you won't let God do what it is that belongs to him. Him fighting those battles that belong to him. Sometimes we don't see, Lord, I don't see any breakthroughs. I don't see anything. Are you giving what belongs to me? Everything in this world belongs to him. Everything. There needs to be a release. The gift of the Spirit, that comes from God. That's not yours to do whatever it is you want to do with it. You have a responsibility to minister through that to the Lord himself. And for the ones who have children in here, you can hear them. You cannot be afraid to correct them. You cannot be afraid to discipline them. Do I have a short fuse? I'm not going to lie. Yes, I do sometimes with mine. I sincerely think women were just created with this patience for children that I just don't have. I'm pretty good, but she's way better. But I believe that God